In this video, we're going to tie one of my latest patterns called the Tron Emerger. We're going to start off with the Daiichi 1560 nymph hook in a size 16 or 18 and some olive Veevus 12/0 or uni 8/0 thread. I like the Veevus just because it's a little thinner and pretty strong for the diameter. Now this fly is unique to a lot of the other flies out there because it is tied with one single material. It is tied with Zlon or Antron. I'm going to use Zlon today in an olive color. For the tail, we're going to start with about 8 or so fibers up to 12. I like to tie it a little bit on the sparse side, so we're going to use about 8 fibers here today. We're going to start our thread about 1/3 of the way back from the eye of the hook. Then I'm just going to wrap in that tail nice and with nice even wraps, one right after the next. Then once I get back to the bend, I'm going to go back forward with it. Again, nice even wraps. And then you can trim out the excess fibers. Now I like to leave the tail long and trim it at the end. The next thing we're going to do is take another thing of Zlon, but this time I'm going to take a nice long clump, about 4 or 5 inches, whatever you're comfortable working with, and a few more fibers. I'd say about 30 or so fibers. Now I'm going to take this clump here. I like to trim the ends kind of flush. Wrap it in right up by our body. And you can trim the butt ends. Now I'm going to pull it tight and kind of down to the side, and I'm going to wrap with nice even thread wraps down the side of the fly all the way back here to the back. And I'm going to take my thread and wrap forward with nice even smooth wraps. This is a key to this fly. You need nice smooth thread wraps. If you start to get lumpy or bumpy, then the body won't sit right. Now I'm going to take that Zlon and I'm going to twist it like crazy. Just twist it into a rope. Nice tight little wraps. This is going to be our body and our thorax as well, actually. So I'm going to take that Zlon once I've got it wound into a rope, and I'm going to pull it fairly tight in the beginning, and I'll kind of ease up on the tension as I wrap forward, and that'll kind of help give it a slight taper as I kind of ease up on the tension of the material. And what this is doing, you can see I'm getting just perfect little segmentation. It also has a translucence to it as well. Everything a little mayfly nymph has. Now I'm going to wrap about 2/3 of the way forward. Then I'm going to take my Zlon in the hackle pliers. I'm just going to kind of lay it over off the back of the vise for now. Then I'm going to take another clump of Antron or Zlon. And this is going to be the casing as well as our legs. And this one's going to be about the same as our body. It's going to be about 30 or so fibers. I'm going to tie this in behind the eye, about an eye's length or two behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to try to capture all of them at once if I can. This fly is all about speed. I'm kind of slowing it down for you today and taking my time to get it right here, since you guys are so zoomed in on my camera and you can see every little mistake I make. So I'm kind of just taking my time. But since this fly is tied with just one material, you can really crank them out. So this fly, I've always tried to kind of tie them with as few wraps as I need and kind of save as many steps as I can. so you can fill the boxes fast, cheap, and easy. So then I'm just going to build a little bit of a thread base for my thorax encasing. We're going to continue to kind of wrap that body forward once I build this thorax. So you got to kind of keep that same smooth thread wrap principle in mind when you're doing this. But you do want to build it up just a little bit because this is a nymph that has kind of a bulky thorax towards the front where its legs and everything are. So I'm just going to build a slight taper to my thorax. I'm going to take my thread all the way up here to the front. Now I'm just going to kind of lightly pull my thorax forward, and you can see I've tied that thorax all the way up to where my wrap of Zlon meets the body and the thorax. Now you can continue forward with just the olive Zlon, and you'll have an all olive little Tron Emerger, which works just fine. I've caught lots of fish on just olive ones, but I'm going to two-tone it. I'm just going to use a brown marker. You can use other colors. You can use black, a darker olive, whatever you want. And I'm just going to take my brown marker and just color in the color of the thorax. Now, you can do this on the body as well. You can use a marker on the thorax, the casing, the tail. That's the beauty of this fly. And what happens too is sometimes this marker will kind of fade as you fish it, so it'll kind of go from a really dark brown to a light brown, so it just really looks fishy, buggy, all the things you want when you're fishing a little Veevus nymph. Now I'm just taking the Zlon rope here and just wrapping it forward, building my little thorax. And once I get about an eye's length away from the eye, I want to keep a little bit of room there. I'm just going to take my thread, capture my little Zlon rope, wrap behind it and front it a couple times, trying to be careful not to wrap too many unnecessary wraps. Don't want to waste a wrap and put too much on. So I'm just going to get in here, trim out the excess. Now I can pull my casing over the top, secure it with one nice wrap, two nice tight wraps. Then I'm going to split this into two even clumps. We're kind of going to do what Craven does, Charlie Craven with his Juju line. Same principle, except we're going to do it here with Zlon. Sometimes your Zlon gets tangled, so I just run through it with a scissor or bodkin to help kind of separate the fibers. Then you're going to pull them back and to the side. Then you're going to lash each side down with two wraps. We'll do the same thing here on the other side, just lashing them to each side. And this is fairly slippery stuff, so take your time, make sure your wraps really bite where you want them to bite. This one's fighting me a little bit. There we go. And once you get your legs lashed down, you can sneak your whip finisher in there and just carefully whip finish with a few wraps. Now we're not finished yet. We have to trim our legs and tail. So I'm just going to pull my legs nice and tight and back here. And we want to trim so it's about half the length of the body. And you can leave them tight to the sides like that if you want, or what I like to do is I like to fluff them out and splay them off to the sides, just like that. and I like them nice and scraggly, so I kind of rough them up and split them down the side there. Now for the tail, you can trim the tail nice and short if you want, about half the length of the body. I like mine to be about the length of the body, so I just usually kind of eyeball it about the length of the body, call it good. If you have it too bulky, if you have too many fibers in there, you can get in there with your scissors and trim out a few of the fibers. Mine is maybe 1 or 2 fibers bulky, but it's not the end of the world. If you have too many, just get in there nice and tight, trim a few out. The fish will never notice. And that is the Tron Emerger, tied all from one material. Easy tie, durable as well, has some kind of natural translucence to it, segmentation, really everything you're looking for in a little mayfly nymph. That is the Tron Emerger.